Welcome to NCPA On Stage, where we explore the stunning performances at China's National Center for the Performing Arts. I'm your host, Shi Yingying. In this episode, you will listen to some of the greatest contemporary Chinese works presented by 5 renowned conductors and the top-notch Chinese orchestra, China National Traditional Orchestra. Different from the Western orchestra, the Chinese orchestral is divided into 4 groups: the wind, plucked strings, bowed strings, and percussion, including the instruments such as the erhu, pipa, and suona, etc. The music produced by the Chinese orchestral is unique and very distinct from any Western counterpart. Soon you will hear the difference in the tempo of the music and the orchestra's arrangement. The concert opens with Original Aspiration by the esteemed composer Li Bo-chan. A commissioned piece for the prestigious Chinese Golden Bell Award for Music, it reflects the theme of staying true to one's original dreams. With a seamless blend of traditional Chinese melodies and modern orchestra techniques, the composition creates a vibrant soundscape that both honors the past and looks toward the future. The work is presented by Liu Sha, principal conductor of the China National Traditional Orchestra. That was Original Aspiration by Li Bo-chan. Now let's journey through the soul of Shanxi with the Chinese orchestra work Shanxi Impression, composed by Wang Danhong. This piece brings to life the timeless charm of Shanxi province, a cradle of Chinese culture nestled in the heart of North China. Rich in history, Shanxi spirit is captured in movements like lovesickness in embroidery building and crossing the West Ferry, which offer music lovers a fresh perspective on this storied land. The performance is led by Liu Jiangbing, artistic director and conductor of the Hsinchu City Juvenile and Youth Chinese Orchestra. There was Chinese orchestral work Shanxi Impression by Wang Danhong. The concert also features another Wang Danhong's work, Macau Capriccio. Macau, a city of rich heritage and cultural fusion, used to be a Portuguese colony until its return to China in 1999. This piece was composed to mark the 16th anniversary of that historic reunion. It celebrates Macau's unique role as a bridge between East and West, bringing its vibrant cultural essence to the world. Structured in 5 evocative movements, The Light of the Church, Portuguese Festival, Fishing Song, Yearning, and Fireworks, this work paints a vivid musical portrait of Macau's spirit. The performance is led by Peng Jiapeng, artistic director and principal conductor of the China Broadcasting Chinese Orchestra. That was Chinese orchestra work Macao Capriccio by Wang Danhong. Next, we have a new piece for the Chinese Traditional Orchestra, Happy Gathering. This work was composed and conducted by the renowned maestro Yan Huichang. Yan is artistic director and principal conductor of the Hong Kong Chinese Orchestra. This piece is an excerpt from his larger suite, The Charm of Hainan. It was inspired by his travels to the island province in southern China. Immersed in the region's rich folk traditions, Yan Huichang drew upon its vibrant music and dynamic dances to bring this composition to life. That was Chinese orchestra work Happy Gathering by Yan Huichang. Next, we will hear Skynet, a signature work by former Singapore Chinese Orchestra composer-in-residence Luo Weilun. This piece embodies the profound philosophy of universal interconnectedness, weaving a sound that reflects the fusion of Eastern and Western thought. Under the baton of conductor emeritus of the Singapore Chinese Orchestra, Ye Cong, Skynet was presented through a dynamic blend of musical styles. Let's embark on this rich and thought-provoking musical journey. That was Chinese orchestral work Skynet. Wang Yunfei's Great Tide is a national orchestral work depicting the Qiantang River tide's grandeur. With dynamic rhythms and passionate melodies, it blends traditional Chinese elements with modern techniques, symbolizing nature's power and human resilience. Under the baton of conductor Liu Sha, the piece showcases the orchestra's brilliance and the cultural richness of Chinese music. Great Tide is not only a celebration of nature's majesty, but also a testament to the innovation and vitality of contemporary Chinese orchestral music. That was Grand Tide for traditional Chinese orchestra. Up next, we have a work by the Chinese composer Chen Gang. His virtuosic piece, The Sunshine on Tashguogan, was originally a violin concerto. It draws from the rich folk melodies of the Tajik people of China who reside east of the Pamir Mountains, where snow-capped peaks stretch endlessly across the horizon. It contains musical descriptions of gorgeous natural scenery, as well as the hard-working people who live there. Now let's enjoy the Chinese orchestral version of The Sunshine on Tashguogan. That was Sunshine on Tashguogan for traditional Chinese orchestra. Last, we bring you the beloved traditional orchestra piece, Fair Flowers Under the Full Moon, a beloved Chinese traditional orchestra piece composed by Huang Yijun in 1935. Through its radiant harmonies, the piece evokes a festive scene of blooming flowers under a glowing full moon, a symbol of reunion, joy, and abundance. now conducted by Liu Sha, Liu Jiangbing, Peng Jiapeng, Yan Huichang, and Ye Cong. Here is the China National Traditional Orchestra performing Huang Yijun's Fair Flowers under the full moon. Thank you for joining us on this musical journey. The program editor is Lisa Tyne, and I'm Ying Ying. See you next time.